I'm sitting here tonight in front of my fireplace, and it's lit not because I'm cold, but because I'm trying to help set a scene for you. And I actually wore a black shirt as part of the scene. So we've talked about setting. Well, this is part of the setting for you to put you in the frame of mind for the story we're going to be talking about this week. And the story we're going to be talking about this week is the story Young Goodman Brown by Nathaniel Hawthorne. Now, all of you have experienced Nathaniel Hawthorne already because Hawthorne wrote the story The Birthmark that we talked about early in the semester, okay? And you know how intense Hawthorne is. He was extremely intense in that story, as he always is, okay? So, that's just who Hawthorne is and what he does and the way he writes. He's just an intense writer. And I guess that's part of the reason why I really enjoy Hawthorne. Okay, so, and we know in that story we had the beautiful Georgiana with the birthmark, and her husband, the dedicated scientist, we'll call him dedicated, we won't call him crazy, who wanted to remove that birthmark, and so he wanted his wife to be perfect. And of course, he does remove the birthmark, but he makes her perfect not by removing the birthmark, but by making her a spirit, by causing her to die, okay? So we remember that story. Well, okay, Hawthorne is almost always that intense, okay? So in the story we're talking about this week, and again, the reason why I'm in front of a fire is because Hawthorne is talking about Salem, Massachusetts in 1692. And of course, we all know about the Salem witchcraft trials, okay? We've all heard of those, And well, what are witches? Witches are devil worshippers, hence the black, evil, devil, evil, okay? And at a witch's Sabbath, of course, there's fire, representative of hellfire. And witches are people who worship the devil. So, hellfire appropriate for their ceremony to worship the devil, okay? So, what we're talking about, again, a story set in Salem in 1692, and a seemingly young, innocent Puritan and his young, innocent wife, seemingly, okay, and his journey to this witch's Sabbath. Now, the story starts out in Salem one evening, and young Goodman Brown, the hero of the story, I guess, or the main character in the story, is saying to Faith, I have to go to this meeting tonight, and his wife Faith is saying, this one night above all others, please stay here with me. That's an important paragraph, okay? So when you read that paragraph, keep it in your head. And he kind of says to her, this one night above all others, I really have to go. So please don't hold this against me, but I really have to go. And so, we're seeing that this is something important right away, okay? Now, Goodman Brown heads off into the forest at night, so obviously darkness, and he goes a little ways into the forest, and he meets a character there who right away says to him, you're late, Goodman Brown. When I passed Old North full 15 minutes ago, the clock was already ringing 6. Now, Salem is a good ways outside of Boston, okay? It's not like it's an immediate suburb. And even today, you couldn't make it from Boston to Salem unless you had a helicopter or something in 15 minutes. Well, this creature has gotten from Boston to Salem and is there waiting for Goodman Brown in 15 minutes. And so his travel was obviously less than 15 minutes. And so we know that we're not dealing with a human, but we're dealing with some kind of a spiritual person. And it doesn't take long, not too long at all, to figure out who this character is that Goodman Brown is meeting in the forest. And of course, it doesn't take a lot of brains even at this point to figure out that this is somebody that's significant for a witch's Sabbath. You'll see from the things that are there. Who it is, I'm not going to tell you because it's more fun to discover it yourself. But he meets other people on this journey with this fellow. And he hides out so that they don't see him, okay? And he is shocked that these people know this person he's with, okay? Now, there are two people on horseback that he is really surprised to see. And your video question for this week is, who are the two people on horseback that Goodman Brown sees in the forest when he is on his way to this witch's Sabbath, okay? He's on his way. He knows he shouldn't be doing it. And so at one point, he decides he's going to stop, okay? And it's at that point that he hears these noises going overhead, and one of the voices that he hears with this garbling noise going overhead certainly sounds like his bride, the beautiful Faith. Okay, so and there's evidence, in fact, that comes floating down that it is Faith. So at that point, he loses all resistance, and he rages through the forest to get to this witch's Sabbath. Okay, and Hawthorne writes some incredible lines in there to describe what's going on inside Goodman Brown. And the narrator that Hawthorne has created in here just shows us this picture so incredibly, enchantingly, draw you in, really makes it powerful. So Goodman Brown gets to this terrible scene, and he is shocked that everybody from the town is there. And he's also shocked that, as our narrator tells us, the good shrank not from the wicked, okay? He expected that, good people and bad people wouldn't be associating. Well, everybody's there, and it's a witch's Sabbath. So, are there good people? Okay? But anyway, yeah, everybody is there. And our narrator gives us all sorts of information and names some people who are there. Then there is a person in charge of the witch's Sabbath. And you can kind of guess who it's going to be. I mean, who might you think it is? It's the devil, I would think. Okay? And so Goodman Brown sees Faith there. And it's like he really obviously was hoping that he wouldn't, but he did. And so that the devil says, bring forth the converts, meaning the converts to evil, And so Faith and Goodman Brown walk up toward where the devil wants to baptize them into his evil ways. And at the last minute, Goodman Brown says, Faith, Faith, look up to heaven and resist the evil one. Okay? And of course, he doesn't know whether Faith did or not. Okay? He doesn't know that because all of a sudden, everything is gone. Everything is gone. Okay? And you can read what goes on there because there's some significant stuff that happens immediately. Then, Goodman Brown walks back into his town the following morning, and he sees some significant people, and he's really upset. And then Faith comes out to greet him, and he walks right past her. Doesn't greet her at all, just walks right past her, A pretty awful thing to do. Now, again, Hawthorne felt that the Puritans were an incredibly hypocritical society, okay? That's his view, and in a certain sense, that's probably the theme of this story, Hawthorne showing the hypocrisy in this whole society that's always been looked upon as a holy society and a society of people holier than thou, and so they persecuted the witches because, of course, they were better than the witches, if there were witches, and I explain all of this in the lesson too, okay? But the real kicker in the deal is this, Goodman Brown thinks now that he is better than everybody else in the town, including Faith, okay? He thinks he's better. He went to the witches' Sabbath. It's not like he didn't go. He went. Did he take part? No, but he did go. Okay? So obviously, evil has crept into this guy who thinks he's so innocent, and in fact, he's acting innocent in the beginning, but would he have even gone if he were so darn innocent? Okay? At the very end of the story, Goodman Brown dies, and they tell us about his funeral procession. And in his funeral procession, they tell us it is Faith and Goodman Brown's children and grandchildren. Now, just before that, our narrator tells us about Goodman Brown. Sometimes, awakening during the night, he shrank from the bosom of Faith. Okay? Sometimes. Now, he thinks Faith is awful. He thinks she's the devil's left-hand lady. This kind of thing. He thinks she's just terrible, and yet, it's only sometimes he shrank from the bosom of Faith, and it's obviously not all the time, because he has children and grandchildren. Okay? So, Faith, evil. Goodman thinking he's good. And yet, who's the biggest hypocrite here? And at the very end, our narrator tells us they carved no verse upon his tombstone, for his dying hour was gloom. Okay? So, Hawthorne is giving us this guy that he's trying to show us is the biggest hypocrite of them all. And he's kind of painting that picture for their whole society. Okay? He's saying that that's how this society was. And again, I kind of explained that in the notes for you. So, I told you what the video question was. Okay? Answer that for me. Read this story. Read it intently and intensely. Read it carefully. Keep in mind that it is not Old English. Sure, we see thee and thou, but English has changed over the years. We don't use those words anymore. It's changed. But when you were kids, a text was a book that you used in school. That's what all your stuff was in school, was a textbook. Okay? Now, texting means transmitting information over your telephone. So I mean, that shows you how our language has changed from those few years until now. Well, imagine how that same language has changed over 290 years, 230 years, 330 years, right, 330 years, okay? So, don't tell me it's Old English. You'll see the word prithee, that means please, or, let's go along with this kind of thing. And thee and thou obviously mean you, So don't let those things throw you. Don't tell me it's Old English, or I'll know you didn't read the lesson, and I'll know you didn't watch this video. If you have questions, contact me. The question is one that requires you to give it some serious thought, so please do that. Okay? And again, if you need to get in touch with me, you know where to. Okay? Have a good week.